So in 2015, now being 2021, so it was nearly 6 years ago, we had 3 new exhaust fans installed, one in each of our bathrooms. And the first one of the 3 has now a burned out motor, or nearly burned out motor. So this is the model number. Hampton Bay is the brand, and it goes out into a 4-inch exhaust duct apparently. 50 cubic feet per minute during operation. Now, it's no longer made, and parts are no longer available. This is a replacement Hampton Bay fan, 50 CFM. And its dimensions are about 4 inches thick and about 7.5 by 7.5 square. The box I'm fitting it into for this previous Hampton Bay fan, which is obsolete, discontinued, this box is a 1/16 of an inch less than 9 inches. And I thought I could put the fan in this way. Well, it appears that there's a joist on this side of the frame. So I've been rethinking the attachment methods for the new exhaust fan. This started out as a 7-inch long piece of 2x4, and what I figured was there's an electrical outlet that's a plug-in here. In order to be able to get my fingers at there, I better cut out this corner, and I'll put it back in place. These brackets will attach and hold up the bottom of the fan. This attaches to a screw at the top of the original housing, and this might be a way to attach it at the top so it doesn't tilt forward. These 2 attachment brackets will not be needed, and they might get in the way of how I'm going to attach the original grill to the bottom of the fan assembly, so it covers up with that big hole in the ceiling. Then the wiring method I'm planning on using is the original wires from the old fan is to bring them out of the back here, and then they'll run over here until to the plug, which goes about here into the side of the fan housing. So that's just some of my ideas. Another aspect is I figured that I will attach the nozzle here for the exhaust into the original exhaust chamber, and then sort of push this fan assembly into that pre-made nozzle, and then start hooking up all the brackets, and then hook up the wires. This is a hole for the ground wire. There is a ground wire in here attached to the housing, but I don't think this is going to be useful. So that's my present status. I figured it's safer to cut this off by hand with a hacksaw, but it's a slow, tedious process, maybe made worse by an old dull blade. But one side done, the other side almost done. This is the original housing for the Hampton Bay exhaust fan that was installed in 2015. The motor burned out. I thought I would just buy a new fan assembly, put in the housing, attach the 4 screws that held it in place, plug it in, and I'd be done. However, it's all discontinued. So what I've done is modified this housing to use a newer version of a Hampton Bay exhaust fan. I started off with a 7-inch 2x4. I cut off this corner because there's a plug in here, and I wanted to have more space to be able to get my hand in there to snap in the wire. On the top here was a attachment screw there, attachment screw there, and attachment screw here that held the fan unit in place. None of it works, but I'm taking this attachment thing, I made this little bracket to hold the top of the housing in place. This is the original quick connect power plug for the 2015 Hampton Bay exhaust fan and the ground wire hanging there. I took the wire off the original 2015 Hampton Bay motor assembly, removed it from the motor, clipped it from the motor, merged it into the electrical box of this 2021 Hampton Bay exhaust fan. And I've modified the box to find a way to attach it. Yet to be resolved is how to attach the exhaust vent here to the exhaust vent up here, but I have a plan. These 2 brackets connect from the bottom of the 2021 housing for the new fan to this support 2x4 with a couple screws. I'll probably add more. At the top here I added this bracket with threaded holes. It's going through the top of the housing for the new fan into that metal strip where I made screw holes and threaded them. So that holds the top. It'll just secure it further. The original power wire I've spliced into this unit, and it plugs into the power source. Once I'm ready for the final installation, this will be the ground wire attached to this screw. Here the exhaust fan is rotating, controlled by this wall switch on the left here. And it seems just as quiet as the original one, even though it doesn't have the same exact sound rating. So the next trick will be to hook up the nozzle that comes with this new fan to the existing nozzle assembly. Before this exhaust fan can work as an exhaust fan, I have to connect the exhaust port on the left here to the exit vent on the right. And so I've got ideas for that. I just bought some stuff from the hardware store. First I have to take this down. It appears that there's about 9 inches distance from the lip of this housing to where it finally meets the flexible duct inside. So this is the new nozzle for the exhaust vent. And this is the outside of it, and this is the stop point when putting it into place. The idea is it slides through these slots. It snaps into place. Well, my plan is to get this nozzle attached with flexible ductwork and merged into place inside of that duct housing, and then slide this housing onto the nozzle just like I did here, and then bolt it all up in place. So I have to merge this with the inside of that duct. So this is the inside of this duct. There's about 9 inches from the metal lip here until reaching the flexible duct on the inside. And so I have to figure a way to merge a piece of ductwork into this opening, probably with silicone sealant, and have a flexible duct coming out of it, and then attach it to the nozzle of the new exhaust fan. So these are the items I'm hoping to merge together. The duct fan nozzle. This is flexible ductwork 3 inches. In this 6-inch distance is actually 8 feet of functional ductwork, so it's very compressible, so I'll just need a small part of it. This is a adapter that goes from 3 inches on this side to 4 inches on this side for ductwork. So I think I'll cut off the 4-inch part and have that 3-inch section, which I'll attach maybe by this aluminum foil tape to hold those two together, and then maybe the same thing foil to this nozzle. And then this is silicone sealant, which I might use to merge that plastic ring into that old duct housing. That's my plan. So that's the 3-inch reducer. I just, 3 to 4 inch. That's the 4-inch one with the 3-inch part cut off. And I'll maybe wrap it with some flexible ductwork and attach to that nozzle perhaps. Okay, so this is what I made. That's the damper you're seeing, why it looks closed. But this is a flexible duct attached to a 3-inch piece at the end, and the flange that attaches to the exhaust duct of the new fan housing. And I feel like it makes a pretty good seal in there, and I haven't even put any silicone sealant on it. I'm going to take it out to show what it looks like. So this is the completed product. The damper is working still. I made sure that the flexible duct did not press on the pivot point of the damper when I fit it in place. It's wrapped with self-adhesive aluminum tape. First attaching it to the flange, and then putting an enforcing band all around it. Same thing on this end. The aluminum tape is attached to the 3-inch reducer, and then wrapped with layers of aluminum foil. It might be overkill, but I'm going to put a bead of silicone all around this end piece here and then shove it in place. Just to make sure it makes a good air seal inside that duct. So this assembly can expand to around 10 inches, but it also compresses down to 4.5 inches. So it seems to fit the bill for connecting the two ducts together. And it also slides into the fan housing assembly quite readily, so it's doing everything I hoped it's going to do. And so I'll seal that into the duct and then slide this fan housing onto the duct flange and then attach it in place. So this appears to be a successful installation. The one surprise I had was I wasn't able to push the housing flush against the supporting 2x4, and I believe that's because the duct is centered on the housing, so not really centered for the duct, and that's why it pushed it out at this angle. It's nearly flush at the end here, and it angles away here. Okay, just some measurements here. This is 1.5 inches on this side of the housing. This is 3.5 inches on this side of the housing. The vent inside here on the original housing is centered on this side, but this bracket is not centered, which is why I wasn't able to get it flush with the side of the 2x4, because this is not centered. So I should have, in theory, had like 2.5 inches space for there, and then would end up 2.5 inches on this side. But this still worked functionally the way it went. Because I centered the housing here pretty well, having a space on this side and a similar space on this side, I've got this at least 3/4 inch space here to put a bracket to support the grill. This is the old vent cover, and it is just under 8 inches from here to here, and I have space on either end so that I can make some sort of a bracket to slip it in. So that's yet to be done to make it look nice. This is what the bracket looks like that supports these two little wires on each side. And this works when it's less than 1 inch separation from the grill to this bracket. This is the same model of Hampton Bay ventilation fan from 2015, or that was installed in 2015. And this one still works, but it's probably nearly clogged with dust. I'll find that out in the near future when I take it apart. Similarly, this is less than 1 inch from this supporting bracket to where the grill would be resting. Since it would be resting right against this metal frame of the housing. So the slot there is 2 to 2.25 inches wide, where those wires fit in. So that's what I'll be aiming for in making a bracket for the other bathroom. These are some hardware items I thought might be useful. to make the bracket to support the vent cover. This is a U-shaped piece of aluminum. This is a leftover support bracket for some sort of shelving unit. And this is a straight aluminum angle bracket. So this is how I'm making the brackets. I started with 4 small holes at the corners, and then did a slightly larger bit, and then did a 1/4 inch bit, and then using this what's it called, a saber saw, jigsaw, to cut the horizontal pieces, and I'll file it smooth. So I filed them to shape, and then I used some of this. This is actually drywall sanding paper that I used to smooth off the rest of the burrs. So that'll be 2 5-inch brackets with a slot. And then I'm going to attach this with it, probably using pop rivets, something like this. And this will attach to the flange of the old fan housing. This is how the work is progressing. Clamp the 2 brackets together, attaching them with pop rivets. The completed brackets. My workbench for these little projects is actually a piece of plywood on top of a freezer chest. Put a couple of blocks of wood and some felt pads, and there's just enough separation there for me to fit a clamp underneath as needed. My previous house I had an 8-foot long workbench, but I just don't have the space to devote it here. This is in the garage. And the workbench stores on the side when not in use. On this side, it barely fit in because this corner of the housing impinges on it, so it was almost too thick. And on this side, I found I had to flip around the ground wire because the bolt threads were sticking into where the bracket went, so I flipped around so that the head of the screw is on the right side. You might ask, okay, what kind of screws are these? I tapped the metal body here with 632 screw threads. And you might ask, well, why didn't you just use pop rivets? Well, because in 5 or 10 years, this fan housing is going to burn out. And these brackets have to come out in order to get the housing out, because it has to have more wiggle room